controversy. In an appearance on the Real Ones podcast released yesterday, the Warriors head coach compared his experiences over the last 2 seasons. Take a listen.
I enjoyed last season when we had the worst record in the league more than I enjoyed that last season and when we went to the finals because, you know, we had young guys last year who were, you know, trying every day and working hard. We had a great energy, great spirit, great camaraderie, and losing sucked. But, you know, what you want is a good vibe and a good, you want to look forward to going to the gym every day and seeing everybody. And that last year was tough. It really was tough. The last year when we lost to Toronto in the finals, there was just a lot going on that you guys, some that you know about, some that you don't, and that was very difficult.
So Warriors reporter Drew Schiller put out this tweet afterwards saying, quote, Steve Kerr told Logan Murdoch he enjoyed last season when the Warriors went 15-50 more than Kevin Durant's final season with the Warriors. Quote, to which KD replied, quote, this is hilarious. Well, Kerr took issue with that tweet before practice yesterday. Listen to this.
You guys have all been very fair to me over the years, and I rarely have any complaints. I know that I am fair game for criticism anytime we play a game. I'm going to make bad decisions that you can criticize. I'm going to do plenty of things that you can criticize, and I deserve it. But to take that comment and put it into a tweet and send it out into the universe was so irresponsible and damaging, and I'm angry. And I know what's going to happen. I know this is going to be taken out onto the morning shows, and people are going to be talking about it, and they're going to use what they think is a quote that is actually something that's completely made up. I'm not happy.
All right, Chris Broussard back with us now. Broussard, let me start with you. What do you make of all of this, of all the back and forth?
Well, Jenna, obviously there's so many levels to this, and maybe I'll get to the media level in the next go-round, but the bottom line to me is this. If you look at it strictly from a basketball perspective, then you think what Steve Kerr said was crazy. And that apparently, from his tweet, is how KD looked at it. To coach the worst team in the league was more enjoyable than coaching the best team in the league. That doesn't make any sense, and KD took it as a shot at him. But if you look at it from a human perspective, I think Steve Kerr and Kevin Durant would agree that last year for KD in Golden State was horrible. I mean, you had obviously the blow-up between KD and Draymond Green, after which KD reportedly felt isolated and was barely talking to his teammates. You had the cloud of KD leaving in free agency hovering over the team. You were going for a three-peat, which is a burden that even Michael Jordan found taxing. Okay? That's not to mention that Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant have season-ending injuries in the playoffs, and you, among your others, with the other front office people, are blamed for bringing KD back too early. Of course it was a horrible season for Steve Kerr. And then here's the last thing. Coaches hate losing, obviously. But one of the things that makes it worse for coaches to lose is questions about your job security. Steve Kerr did not have to worry about that last year. He knew he wasn't getting fired.
That's right.
So he actually, for an NBA season, the game became pure again for him. He could step in the gym, and all he was concerned about is helping guys get better. Didn't have to worry about wins and losses or none of that, which probably was a relief for him after 4 years of going hard at, or 5 years, trying to win these championships. So I get where he's coming from, and I think if KD looked at it that way, then he would understand it too.
Yeah, the telling thing to me, Broussard, was that KD saw something and knew it was probably going to be an issue and decided to tweet rather than just give Steve Kerr a call. And Nick, that was the sign to me that their relationship is not as strong as it possibly would be. I think if you read anything bad that if you heard something bad on the podcast, you wouldn't just respond to a tweet. You'd pick up the phone and call the person. So to me, that was the sign that their relationship is fractured. But to say that it was like wildly irresponsible for Drew Schiller to categorize and describe Durant's last season as Durant's last season, rather than as Steve Kerr described it as like the year we lost to the Raptors in the final. No one describes that season like that. No one's like, you don't remember that year when the Warriors lost to the Raptors in the final. That's just not how basketball fans talk. That was defined by Kevin Durant's last season with the Warriors. And here's why I knew it wasn't a quote. It didn't have quotation marks around it. So if someone misinterpreted it, that's fine. It didn't have quotation marks. I'm like, well, that's the description of the season, and that's the quote. I didn't find it nearly as wildly irresponsible as Steve Kerr did.
All right, so I am, I guess, here. Now, Wilds and Broussard have both been around the NBA longer than me. I think it is in my contractual obligation as a member of the NBA media to say, before I level any Steve Kerr criticism. Now, let me make it clear, I love Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr's a great guy. He's always been a great friend of the media, easy access, all this stuff. And Raymond Ritter with the Warriors, the best in the business. Okay, now am I covered? Now can I say something here? What Steve Kerr did to Drew Schiller yesterday was outrageous, because he name checks him earlier in it. That full audio, I encourage people also to listen to it. The full audio. Because what you don't hear is 30 seconds prior, Steve Kerr saying, well, the first 4 years here were great. But then that last year, we had agendas. He talks, you heard in the audio, you want a good vibe coming into work. And then Steve Kerr at the press conference acts like he was saying, well, the year we lost to the Raptors, we had 2 guys suffer traumatic injuries. So that, of course, ruined the feelings about the season. That's not what he was talking about. He was clearly saying the 2019 Warriors was not a fun group to be around. The 2020 Warriors, despite all the losing, was a fun group to be around. Well, what could he possibly be talking about when he says vibes, stories the media knows about and doesn't know about, and agendas? He's talking about Durant. And the fact that Kerr, instead of recognizing, I got a little too comfortable on a podcast and stepped in it a bit. And by the way, there's been a whole book written about this. Ethan Strauss, we had him on the show talking about this. Everybody knows that relationship wasn't great at the end between Durant and his teammates, between Durant and Kerr. For Kerr to then be like, oh my God, irresponsible media, acting like I was taking shots. It is what it is. And I am surprised that he was surprised there was blowback to it. Maybe he didn't think Durant would see it. Spoiler alert, Mr. Kerr, Kevin Durant sees it all. He's always very online, and he is here to respond to you. So, like, it's not going to go by unnoticed. Like, so I think Kerr's indignation, Brandon, is a little misplaced, especially if you listen to the audio and hear how he describes that season compared to the season that just finished.
Yeah, Nick, I think you got this all the way wrong. Number one, you can never win as a player or coach when you start comparing teams and you start comparing players. You just don't win because somebody's feelings are going to get hurt. Nick, Steve Kerr was talking about the entirety of the situation, right? I've been in these locker rooms where, you know, there's so much on the line. We're talking about a billion-dollar industry, multi-billion-dollar industry with multi-million-dollar athletes, egos, and these different personalities coming together. It's hard work. When you're losing, when you're winning, and if it's not the right situation, it's one of the most toxic environments that you can be in as a human being. I'm telling you, let's look at let's look at Tom Brady. Let's look at the New England Patriots. They won for 20 consecutive years. Think about that. Why did Gronkowski want out? Why did he retire? He retired, said, I can't deal with this anymore. Why did Tom Brady want out? You won 6 Super Bowls in New England. The reason why is because of what you're saying, the vibes. You get to a point where it's like, man, the hell with this, man. I could be in sunny South Florida, and I could be feeling better winning half these games. And that's what Steve Kerr is. Think about who Steve Kerr come from. Think about that. We're talking about Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson was the first person to bring those vibes to the NBA, talking about let's do yoga. He had the Chicago Bulls doing yoga, talking about the vibes and talking about how we got to do these things. He is best friends with Coach Pete Carroll. And Pete Carroll, I know I've been on him hard the last couple of months about letting Russ cook, but the end